Hey, what is happening, Bulls and Bears? It is Saturday, July 16th, 2022. Thank you for being here. No crazy faces in the thumbnail today. Sometimes I just have to act a little bit crazy. We're living in a crazy world. These are crazy times. And I think if you don't do something to just release a little bit of the stress, anxiety, that you may end up crazy. You may end up like one of these people we see on the streets of Philadelphia. I think we played a few clips here where the people in Philadelphia, the streets were just filled. It looked like a zombie apocalypse. The carnage that we're seeing in the inner cities right now, it's just outrageous. I wouldn't even feel safe walking in most major cities at night by myself without some sort of protection. It's getting bad out there, and as poverty continues to rise, as we see this gap between the rich and the poor widen, and we see more people that are middle class falling now into the lower rungs of society. And not much is being done to make things change. There's no course and direction being discussed. In fact, what's being done right now is not even making a dent in the real problems that we're seeing, right? So these rate hikes out of the central bank, not making much of a dent in inflation. There is a supply versus demand problem that raising rates will not fix, and we've been talking about that, how jobs have been outsourced for decades. Recently, real wage growth deeply negative still. So even with all the good unemployment numbers out there that's being touted by the news and coming out of the talking heads telling us how great, how strong the economy is because unemployment rate is near a 50-year low. I believe it's around 3.6%. It's a number that's really just so irrelevant now, but yet that is one of the key numbers that's looked at by the quote-unquote experts. And we have to ask ourselves, okay, if unemployment's near a 50-year low, but debt keeps rising further into all-time high territory, what is the point of even looking at the number? Why is it even a statistic if it's that meaningless, right? So we kind of have to dissect all this information, sort fiction from fact, but not just that, just sort out what's actually relevant and what's not relevant, right? So I could sit here and tell you that unemployment's down, more people are getting jobs, look at all the jobs that were added, but if costs are outpacing inflation, or costs are outpacing the wages, it's really not going to matter that much. Speaking of jobs, outsourcing, manufacturing, U.S. industrial production unexpectedly tumbles in June. Was it unexpected? Well, not really. I mean, we expected it. The problem is, they put out these numbers and then they revise it the following month to say, oh, by the way, it was negative. But yet you'll see markets jump on the news, but yet it gets revised the very following month, right? So why not just wait and find out what the real numbers are if we're, in many cases, seeing these revisions that come out just a month later. Despite ISM surveys, analysis expected U.S. industrial production to eke out a 1% gain in June, but they were wrong as output slumped 0.2% month over month. This has been the weakest month since September 2021, but yet we're supposed to be in this recovery, right? We had the big shutdown in 2020. Now we're in a recovery, but yet we see numbers getting worse in many different categories. Of course, you have the phony, meaningless numbers like the unemployment number that's continued to go lower. What they won't tell you about is the labor force participation rate. Of course, can't talk about that, right? So we've talked about it here a lot, but they don't want to talk about that as far as telling the masses, right? So we have to sort through all this. America is not in the mood for a recession, and this is out of wolfstreet.com. Splurging on goods, flocking to restaurants. We talked about this a couple reports ago, how no matter how much debt people are in, even if they're in bankruptcy, they could be in Chapter 7 bankruptcy right now, they're still going to go out and spend money. People just want to do what they want to do. You can call it being spoiled. Maybe it's just part of the American culture, right? You're just, ever since you're young, you're taught that you have to be entertained, that you have to always go out to eat, that you have to always be doing things, traveling, go to the theaters, go to ball games, right? Spend, 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 consume, consume, consume. It's American culture. What have we heard out of leaders after certain tragic events, right? Go out and shop. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. We've got it handled. And retail sales in June jumped by 1% from May and 8.4% year over year, and by 32.5% from June 2019 to $681 billion. Right? So how high can debt go, and yet we still continue to see these retail sales jump and jump and jump and go higher and higher. Now, on the flip side of that, people are cutting back in certain areas. We see entertainment. We saw what happened with Netflix. But people are still spending money, restaurants, dining, and goods, right? It's very interesting, right? So it's very interesting to see how far people will go, even though they're skating on the edge financially. I think people always know that there's bankruptcy waiting as the safety net, right? In America, we're always told we have this huge social safety net, which we do, in many different aspects, including people that just go out, max out all their credit cards, and end up filing bankruptcy. It's a big safety net. So you write off the debt, and people are divided on the whole topic of writing off debt. People say you shouldn't erase student loan debt. Others people say you should erase it. But yet we have something called bankruptcy, and that's essentially the same thing. You're getting rid of debt. Money that you spent or that somebody spent that can't be paid back, you get rid of it. It's deleted. It's gone. It's just a law that somebody made, and it's there. So think about that on a larger scale. What about massive debt forgiveness? It wouldn't fix the problem, but there are people out there saying that that would fix the problem. It's insane. Let's talk about rents. Average rents continue to go up. Now, we talked a few reports ago, I want to make this clear, how some cities saw a month-over-month drop in rents, okay? But overall, when you look at the overall average, rents are still going higher. So the cities that saw the drops were smaller than the increases that we saw in other cities. You understand? So we average it all out, rents are still going up. Rents in the U.S. rise at fastest pace since 1986. How far can we go into this territory with so much debt out there, so many people having to have some sort of rescue programs, and yet rent is still rising this fast? The only way to stop it is if everyone stops paying rent, right? There'd have to be some mass organization where everybody stops paying rent. Of course, that'll never happen because you can never get that many people on the same page to do something like that. And I'm not saying that. I don't want anyone to get kicked out of their residence. JJ said don't pay your rent. No, I'm just saying that that's probably the only way we're going to stop rents from growing is people just say, no, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to I'm not going to pay this much money. It's like buying an item. If you don't price it to sell, it's going to sit there on the shelf. If somebody wants to swipe the plastic and buy it, and if millions of people want to buy it, then there's going to be a shortage because everybody's buying up all these goods, and they're going to raise the price at the store to try to keep up with all the demand. Well, the same thing happens here with rents. If everybody's just going to pay whatever the cost is, whatever the rent is, then there's no incentive for the landlords to drop the price. And unless we see a massive bankruptcy storm where millions of people get wiped out, I think we're headed in that direction. But rents are going to keep going up until the breaking point, right? Crazy. And actually, on the topic of rents, average rent in Manhattan was $5,000 last month. Average rent, $5,000. I remember back when chaos was breaking out in some of the cities, no one wanted to be in Manhattan. There was people leaving these big cities. After the health crisis faded away, people went back to the big cities, and now we're seeing rents back where they were prior to the health crisis, and now going even higher, right? Absolutely insane, people. So my mind is blown. Every day I look at the news, and you think it can't get any worse, that it can't get any more obscene, but it continues to get worse. It continues to get more obscene. Hope everybody's doing well. We're going to wrap this one up. We may be back for a report tomorrow. I've got a kind of a busy weekend, but please let me know what you think, right? What do you think about all this spending? Are people spending themselves towards a financial cliff and they just don't care? Do they not see it coming? Do they think there's some sort of turnaround, that they're going to see a big raise and all of a sudden that wages are going to outpace inflation instead of the other way around like it is right now? Please let me know what you think down in the comments. What is with all the spending? What are people thinking? Do they not know, or do they just not care, or both? And maybe let me know what you think. You don't care either. Maybe you're just spending, and bankruptcy, the safety net's going to be there, and That's why we're just seeing so many people spend money and just continue to live these entertainment lifestyles. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Please like, subscribe if you like these videos. Come back for more updates. Bull, boom, bear, bust. Peace.